Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today in this video we're going to be talking about the pages of history, which is of course going again when it comes to January, and also talking about loot boxes and why they only get worse over time, and how it's going to be an issue when it comes to War Thunder going forward, especially with what we've seen from this winter request. Anyway, if you enjoy this type of content, make sure to subscribe to the channel and also like the video. Let's get into it. So for the pages of history for January, the profile picture you can get is Dmitry Osetyuk, and he was the commander of a tank company on the Leningrad front. On the 12th of January 1943, his light tank was cut off from his company by 3 heavy German tanks that it could do nothing against. Using himself as bait, Osetyuk led the enemy tanks under artillery fire and then defeated the enemy infantry in close combat using machine guns, cannons, and the tracks of his tank. On January the 18th, his company was the first to meet the troops on the Volkhov front, thus opening a land corridor to Leningrad and breaching its blockade. On the 21st of January, Osetyuk's tank was destroyed, but he pulled his wounded driver out of the tank, got him to safety, and kept fighting in another tank. So, a pretty inspiring story when it comes to the Russian front. As always, when it comes to pages of history, you have the trophy with a reward for each task, so the boosters, the backups, the day premium, and a camo, and of course you have all of the different operations or the battles which go on during January. I won't go through them, but most of them obviously are around World War II once again, but also there is actually one from the 1990s, the Battle of Kafji, which was the first major battle of the Gulf War. So you've got to make sure that you have some of those vehicles researched. Also, the first one for January is also Operation Bolo, which, if you don't know, was in 1966. So not just some standard stuff, you also have some extra stuff as well to do alongside the winter quest. So when it comes to loot boxes, I think it's worth talking about, mainly because of the promotion of them when it comes to War Thunder recently and how they're becoming normalized in the game. Now, I can chuck you a bunch of links about why loot boxes are bad, why they're very predatory, why they are designed to make you spend more money than you would if you just bought the product by itself individually, but I don't think I would get anywhere because, well, I've talked about that before. We've talked about it many times. Even more recently when it came to the summer. So if you want a video on that, let me know and then we can go through it. I can give you all the links to the articles and the studies, how stuff like this, which is just gambling at the end of the day, is generally bad, especially when you have a video game which is aimed not just at the older generation. We've talked about the general demographics of War Thunder, but is also open to people who are not at 18. At the end of the day, War Thunder is one of those games which is not classed as a mature game. It is actually, I think it's 14 plus, or at least it's somewhere in the teenage years plus. So what ends up happening is younger people, technically what are classed as children, are opened up to these gambling mechanics, which is bad. And when it comes to War Thunder, it's been ever increasing. We have obviously a history of these things in the game. If you go to the item shop, you'll see the GE boxes, which have been here for the longest time. And at the same time, what I've done is videos in the past, basically going through their chances, kind of showing you how it is completely worthless trying to get these vehicles from these packs. You might as well just wait until they're on sale, or wait until they're around the case, and it'll be a hell of a lot cheaper for you. And now with the winter event and the summer event, we have the SL chests, which have come in, which, you get kind of percentages about what each of them are. When it comes to the actual event itself, they talked about it in the winter quest event and what's going on with that. But even then, it was kind of ambiguous about what is, what you can get and what percentages are what, how many percentages stack on top of each other, and all of that wonderful stuff. But SL boxes I don't think are too bad, because at the end of the day, what can happen is you can just grind SL out in the game. It's technically not a real currency. It is a currency which is based on time. It is not really based on anything else. and how efficiently you grind stuff. You can play rank 1, BR 1.0 constantly and just earn SL as you go. And yeah, if you want to use in-game currency like that for stuff like, loot boxes, I suppose it's not too bad. But when it comes to the GE ones, which is the next step, and this is kind of not even the penultimate step, but this is the unfortunate next step in the setup for this event, you now have a limited loot box, which has a bunch of different stuff. You have a guaranteed prize, so therefore technically it is not seen as gambling in certain regions of the game because it is a guaranteed prize. Therefore, you can get around a lot of gambling laws. One of the things that Blizzard did back in the day when it came to Hearthstone is in China, they banned, they basically said if you were going to do loot boxes, what you had to do is you had to put percentages for everything. So what Blizzard did in regions such as China, what they ended up doing is instead of technically just selling the card pack for Hearthstone, what they ended up doing is selling a little bit of dust, and then you got a free card pack with it. So technically you were buying the dust, and the card pack was the free part, but the reason why people were buying it was because they wanted the card pack. So Gaijin are kind of doing this in a way here. We're putting a guaranteed prize in, so whatever happens, you do get something for your GE, even if it is a complete tiny amount of something for 1,000 G, which is how much the box is. Then you get additional prizes, and then you get additional random prizes on top of this. Now, what they've actually done is they have given a percentage breakdown of what everything is, percentage-wise, which is at least kind of nice. But also at the same time, if you actually work out the percentages, the amount that you get from them, or the chance that you get these things, is very, very minimal. And even now, a lot of people are putting the fact that, hey, I won this from the box, and this is what they want. They want word of mouth about, positive things that people have got from the boxes. And, they want people to share their winnings even without seeing all of the people who fail on these things, which is going to be the majority. These types of boxes are always, always negative for the consumer, which is why when other games have done it, such as the wargaming games, we have, everybody talks about how negative they are. The way that Gaijin has done it here, it's seen as not negative because they're bringing back old items that people can get through them. But at the end of the day, it's a randomly generated thing, and if you get it, well done, and if you don't, well, guess what? You've just wasted money. And it would be much better if there was ways of guaranteeing these vehicles, which is the actual prize that people want, instead of these ways. And there's many other ways that they can actually do it instead of this predatory practice. They could do alternatives to loot boxes, so trading of vehicles. You could also have mini events where you bring back vehicles that you can grind out over time. You could even add more to the Build-A-Bear events. You could bring them back in the Warbond shop, the blueprint system we've talked about in the past, where you pay some X amount of Warbond points to get a blueprint, and then the blueprint opens kind of a Build-A-Bear setup. You do a bunch of challenges, and then guess what? Bada bing, bada boom, there you go. You get the parts to build the vehicle, then you put it together. And then you just have a different blueprint every Warbond shop, and then you just keep rolling over and over again. That could be an easy way of doing these things. But instead, we have loot boxes, which are just designed to make money. And it's sad, really, because one of the things that I've talked about a lot, especially when it comes to the stream, is this is not the end of this. You can see the natural progression. So you had the item shop ones, they updated them last year, so they changed a lot more, and also varied their pricing, so therefore some of them look a little bit more incentivized compared to others. Don't buy them. Then you have the SL boxes, which came in last time. Generally, people saw them as quite positive. A lot of CCs jumped on them, kind of showing what's in them. For me, personally, I opened 30 million SL worth of the boxes and ended up getting one decal, and that was it. And it was a fire decal from one of the summer events. Like, literally, that's all I got during the whole thing. And now we have the GE boxes, which have come in. And now next time what we'll have is we'll have a GE box once again, but what they'll do is they'll change the prizes that are on offer and make it less obvious which one you're actually getting. They're already kind of doing that now, but it's going to get worse over time. One of the things about these systems, and this is something that we've talked about the Battle Pass in the past by, so the Battle Pass, when it first comes out, like the first few Battle Passes, you want to get people interested in it. So what you end up doing is you massively inflate the value of the stuff in it. So the value of the stuff that you get out of it is way higher than what's actually the cost of the Battle Pass. So people go, oh, this is really nice value. I'm going to grind this out. This is going to be really fun. And then what you do is over time, you lower the value of what's in the Battle Pass more to the level which is kind of, worth it from a company point of view. And that's what you've seen in the more recent Battle Passes. So instead of 4 vehicles, you get 3. You can now grind it for free, but if you grind it for free, you can't get the bonus Battle Pass. You now have different decorations, and you have, instead of, the vehicle, you have, I think it's the Days of Premium, which don't necessarily benefit, the player. Then you have even harsher challenges, which is something we've seen in the last few Battle Passes. Then you change up special tasks, so it's a little bit harder to do here and there. So, and the themes themselves are not as interesting, but because you've got people hooked in the first place to be able to grind out the Battle Pass, then that's what ends up happening. Like that's what happens with these sets of Battle Passes. Over time they get worse and worse, but because people are invested in them, that's okay until it gets to a base value, and then everybody just accepts that as the new normal. And now that's what's happening with these loot boxes. Now the SL ones are seen as normal because they've happened for 2 setups. Now the G ones will be seen as normal if they come back in the summer, and even people will praise them because it means that maybe they have a chance to get some of the old vehicles. And if you want to do that, go ahead at the end of the day. But for me, I think it's a very dangerous precedent to set. I really don't like random chance things, especially when they do involve money. Yes, GE is money for the vast majority of people when it comes to the game, apart from CCs. I don't want to see anybody promoting this stuff. I don't like the fact that War Thunder is not just an adult game, so therefore you could just have people completely gamble away all of this stuff. One of the things that I've always held up when it comes to War Thunder is, for the longest time, they were above these types of mechanics. They were very small in the game. They were pushing stuff through the market, like the Gacha market instead, which I thought was really fun and really interesting, and it meant that players had more of a say. When it comes to these RNG mechanics, this is completely based on the company, and this is just going to get worse and worse. One of the worst jobs, I think, when it comes to humanity is marketing. Being a marketer is basically trying to obfuscate or try and bend the truth in order to sell a product. And stuff like loot boxes, stuff like RNG mechanics, or stuff like that are all forced from the marketing teams. And that's why I can never abide by anything like these people say. It is one of the scummiest jobs when it comes to the world, and all you have to do is have a look at how medical marketers or medical arms end up with those setups, or any setups like that. It's horrific. It really is, and I really can't abide by it. And hopefully, we'll have to see what the response is to the G boxes, and the way that we find out the response to the G boxes is what happens in the next iteration of them. Do you get easier to get vehicles? I highly doubt it. Or do they get harder? Which would mean that this has been a success when it comes to Gaijin, meaning that it made a lot of money. As always though, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank Forge, Siegebreak, Carrion Crow, Nicholas Richardson, Goat, Pyman, Winter Scientist, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, and also Sem Arslan, Wilkski, Uncle Bean, Derek R., Bareen, Lafouche, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.